Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I'm really excited to be here with you. Thank you for joining me. I have fascinated by humankind, and this is what this podcast is all about. I think that we're a gifted creation. We are. Sometimes we undermine that, and sometimes there is a big black cloud floating over us to dampen our feelings and thoughts about who we are. But in essence, when you take a look at our accomplishments over the last 6,000 years or 2 billion years, whatever your spiritual predilection, you'll see some great achievements. And I think it's important for us as humankind to focus on those things, because as we see our successes, as we see our creativity, the brilliance of collectively of all of us, I think that in some ways is a means to peace and a world where we all get together as one. And that's really important. Within that, my guest today is Caleb Schraeder. Caleb, how are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Now, this is a second interview with Caleb, and we actually have a third one lined up, which we'll talk about a little bit later. When I really, really, really appreciate and like my guests, not just really, but really, really, I invite them back. And I do, because I always feel that there's so much to learn from these folks and also to talk about. So in our first interview, and you'll find it on the Avrum Rosensweig Show on YouTube and all other social media outlets, Spotify, etc. We talked a lot about his transition from a Christian to what is called a Noahite, and soon, one day, God willing, to become a Jew. He is as passionate a non-Jewish Jew as anyone I have ever met. So I always ask that you, the viewer, you, the listener, take something out of this interview that you can incorporate and digest into your own world, into your own life. And I think what you're going to see throughout our discussion, our schmooze, is Caleb is a very intense fellow. And he looks at life in a way that requires, not as nice, but requires meaning and purpose. And he has done so much. Sorry, I'm just coming off COVID. He has done so much in order to achieve that, going from a place of what we would call hitting rock bottom. And if you've ever been there, it's a difficult place to be. It's dark. To a life nowadays, he's a family man. He's got beautiful kids. He has learned in Judaism, very much learned in Torah. And he is what we would call a carpenter. And and a nurse.
Craftsman.
Yeah, it took me years to call myself an artist, by the way. Years. So you wouldn't call yourself a carpenter yet?
I would not call myself a carpenter. I would call myself a craftsman.
Craftsman, okay.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful is that Caleb has taken all of these pieces in his life, talking about you like you're not here, all of these pieces in his life, and he has brought them together like a tapestry. And that is a very, very big challenge in life. It's something that we all deal with. Very often there's a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, a piece here. But as we work, as we get older, as we find more wisdom within, we find those pieces, and eventually we're able to attach them, and even more so, sew them together, that they're one unified piece. And then we say, yeah, that's who I am. I get it. I can see myself, or at least I'm on the road to see myself. So with that, Caleb Schraeder, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here again.
Great to be here, man. Great to have you.
Thank you.
There's this wonderful quote that I found. You have very many great quotes. Caleb has developed some pieces about his, what we'll call artwork, about his woodworking, and tied it into the religious side of him and the fatherhood, and he being a critical care nurse. It's a really, really nice quote that I want to start the show off with, and it goes as follows, and I'll let you define it. In the early designs, it was an unconscious effort to cultivate meaning. When I started this journey, I had no experience in design and no guidance or influence from outside sources, in part by choice. I knew at the deepest level I had to speak from my soul. All that I hadn't seen and all that I had done was demanding a voice. My soul was demanding to be heard. Woodworking was my silent scream.
Mm.
Woodworking was my silent scream. Tell us about that.
You know, when you're in the shop, I was a night nurse for a long time, and in those early days, I spent most of my time making at night, and there's never part of the joy of that is that there's no phone calls, there's no interruptions, there's no distractions, and you know it's when you're interacting with wood, it's from a living thing, and so you have to kind of learn to read the grains and understand how this line is working its way through the piece of wood in this way, and it really becomes a meditation. And that when you go into that meditative state, it accesses a part of the brain that everything is quiet, everything is silent, and at the same time, I have all these experiences of watching people suffer and die, and I have no place. There is no place to put it. There is no conversation within the career path of being a critical care nurse that provides you with any way to talk about it or share those experiences. I mean, you have shared experiences in the hospital, but for the most part, you carry those things home, and all of the people in your life that are not in the hospital have no context for what you've experienced. And myself and so many others, we maladapt. We drink, or we drink, or oftentimes fall into drugs. Any number of ways of escaping the pain that we're experiencing. And so woodworking, when I found that, and I found that the peace of that meditative place, and how quiet it was, I mean, I can go back to that place in my mind right now, of the peace that I felt, and at the same time uh, feeling like so full of emotion, and I'm hammering away at this thing, screaming, and inside it's all happening within. It's not and it's coming out through this creative process. That's my silent scream.
So, as a critical care nurse, as you speak about in your publications, which are outstanding, by the way, fascinating, you talk about the sterility
Mm,
of the hospital. And in very graphic terms, you say the more death that you saw, the more you had to attach yourself to some level of meaning or a deep level of meaning. And you said what happens in the hospital, and I think in some level in some ways, we've all been privy to this, losing a grandparent, losing a parent, God forbid, is that you say they wipe things away with bleach.
mm,
And before you know it, where that person's life was in that bed, where their soul was attached to their body, as you say,
mm-hmm,
they're no longer there. Not only that, they're on a gurney, probably somewhere tucked away in a closet at this point.
mm-hmm.
That is a trying thing for your soul, or was and is, right?
Sure. Yeah,
How,
absolutely.
and how did you deal with that? What was your best way of coming home, knowing that you had seen a death that day or deaths, and being able to sit down at the table and have dinner with your children?
Well, um I mean, it's that's kind of the insidious thing about it, is that you do just go back, you just reinsert yourself back into life, and you don't process it. You you go and you do the dinner, and you spend the time with your kids, and all of the distractions of life just kind of distract you from actually processing what you just went through. And so as time marches on, and you collect more and more of these experiences, they just, if you don't have a place to process them, they just accumulate, they just keep growing within. And I mean, that's one of the great things about doing the podcast with Julie, is having friends and coworkers come up to me and in tears, literally, and just give me a hug, and say, until I heard your podcast, I didn't even know that I had PTSD. But once I heard you guys talk about it, then I realized I've been carrying all this weight for so long. And I've got several people who have entered into therapy, and begun processing it. When Julie and I were first talking about starting the podcast, one of the things that I was very concerned with, because I've been trying to work in this space for quite a while, for a number of years, pre-COVID. And I started a support group for nurses, and no one showed up. And so I started asking the people that I had invited why they didn't show up. And there were a number of reasons, but they just they weren't ready, is one of the answers. And I think that part of the not being ready is knowing you have so much built up, and if you open the gate, if you open the gate this much, the whole thing is going to bust open. And so from the conversations I had in the first attempts to help nurses, I was scared of doing that in the podcast, because we have no way to we have no support system beyond the podcast and just having the conversation to support the nurses that it does open up, which is why we try to talk about people going to see therapists and having a place to talk.
It's really interesting, because there are different parcels within you. As I said before, tapestry, and you have those little squares that you sew together. There's the square, which is the dad, your beautiful children, and then there's the square, which is the critical care nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have another square, perhaps down here, where you are almost like a practicing Jew. You're a Noahite, which we'll explain in a moment, but you're on the road to converting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a craftsman. And when you speak, Caleb, I wonder if you know this about yourself, you go seamlessly from one square to the next, seamlessly. So I'll ask you a question about your woodwork, and somehow you'll tie it into being a critical care nurse. Right.
Yeah, you can't understand you can't understand one without the other.
Yeah, how is that? All those pieces, how do they fit together?
I mean, I there's no way that I would be there's no way I would be a craftsman without having been a nurse first.
Because
I mean, I think that I have probably a natural aptitude for making things. I think that's just an innate thing. But the creative process that I guess I came up with, that I created for myself, is informed by nursing and fatherhood, in the sense that the maladaptive behaviors that I developed, drinking, multiple girlfriends, women, things that ultimately led me away from my children. All of those things, they put me in a place where I had to create something. I had to have this outlet. All of these experiences led me to the wood shop, where I have to get away from all of it, from all of the distractions of life, and do something productive. I think, there's another really important piece here, in that when you're a critical care nurse, you're standing over people who are dying. It's a non-productive process. So when I came to woodworking, it was so productive. I'm actually creating something that is generative, versus, so I'm in one part of my life, I'm standing over someone who's dying and I'm trying to save them. On the other side, I'm standing over a piece of wood that is a dead tree, and I'm giving it a second life through creating beauty. So it's completely opposing opposites of it's going in totally opposite directions. One is growing, and one is dying, literally. And
Is there a
so,
creative and a productive aspect to you being the critical care nurse, standing over that person who's at that point wheezing, trying to find that breath? Is there something that you try to do to bring meaning to those moments?
yeah, I'm not saying that they're not meaningful, and I'm not saying that it's not productive work. It's productive work in the sense that the person is, hopefully going to heal and get back to a place of health. Um, but in my healthcare journey, the we never, as this, gosh, this is such a critical thing to understand about being an ICU nurse or an ER nurse, is you don't get to see people get better.
Yes.
They almost never come back and say, hi, I thank you so much, I really appreciate what you did. They come in on their backs and they leave on their backs.
Mhm.
They come in on a bed or a gurney, and we do everything that we can to save them. And if they leave on their back on a gurney or on a bed, and they go to another unit, and we never see them again. And I do think that I think that I've said this a lot on the podcast. I think that it would be really good if our healthcare system did a better job of connecting us with our patients. HIPAA compliance is it does a lot of damage to the psychology of nurses. I think It- we we give everything that we have to our patients, and we never see them again.
Is we watch people whom we know who are generally older pass away in our lives. There's a handful of them. And then we eventually will watch ourselves as we get older, and life goes out of us at some point. So we really have that intimacy with death through some very close family members, and ultimately ourselves. Whereas you, being a critical care nurse, you've expanded that village, if you will, the village of death, and,
Mhm.
and you see it, I'm sure, very often on a daily basis. What comes along with that, from my understanding of your writings, and tell me if I'm accurate, it's very, very easy to get a sense of sort of existential meaninglessness.
Yeah.
Why is that? Are there nurses who flip that around and go, this is the beauty of life, we live, God takes us dust to dust? Or is it inevitable that if you don't deal with it in a meaningful way, then it's too much for our soul and our psyche?
Most of the nurses that I know that do get to flip that, most of them that I've encountered have had some sort of rock bottom. I'm just completely burned out. I can't go on moment, and where they take a step back um, and process their stuff, and come back renewed. And there's a part of me that is, I don't know if ashamed is the right word, but there's a part of me that's ashamed to be part of a medical system that is just so broken. especially in America. I don't know what your healthcare system is like, but ours, you know, there are so many problems with the American medical system. And do you know what a Gordian knot is?
Mhm.
It's the insurance system is kind of a Gordian knot. It's so complicated. You know, we're paying on percentages, and you know, I've looked into that and have a reasonable understanding of how it was created. And it, to me, it's just a Gordian knot that has to be cut through. And I don't know, I don't know how to do that. But I do think that that's a correct analogy. So there's a sense of shame, or like, I don't really want to be a part of this, but it's also the only vehicle that we have to care for people. So I continue.
So you said in your piece that you wrote, interacting with wood and all of its diverse characteristics of grain patterns, textures, colors, and smells was like breathing in cool, fresh spring air. It was something real, something I hadn't experienced, something deeply meaningful. It
Hmm.
was authentic and real, and it clashed violently against the sterility of the institution of the hospital. So we have this image of you as a critical care nurse and the challenges of watching death on a regular basis and sickness, never seeing the patient again. We have this sense of you being the woodworker, the creative person, right? And developing these beautiful, beautiful pieces, all with meaning behind them, be it biblical or having to do with your daughter Abigail. Um, then comes the Jewish,
All of my kids,
all
all
of
of
your kids,
them.
yes.
Yeah,
And
each one has their own. Yeah.
very good. Then comes the Jewish piece. Somewhere along the road, and we talk about this in the first interview, you decided that it was important for you to embrace spirituality on a very deep level. Christianity wasn't doing it for you.
Hmm.
Jesus in your heart just wasn't enough, right? And so you started to look at what you called the source being Judaism. That's that third piece of that tapestry. Tell us a little bit about that.
About about
The genesis,
Judaism.
the genesis of you embracing Judaism. Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't remember if how I talked about how I originally left Christianity, but essentially it was I had one infant death, 18 months, and then a teenage death, both of which were very, you know, even gosh, even with adult kids, men or women that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, if the mother is there at the death, the scream is it. I It's not describable the way that it touches the soul. It goes into and touches a piece of you that nothing else can touch in that way. It is so, and you know, I have lots of coworkers that have shared that experience, and we talk about it. And I remember going to my pastors, and I remember just sitting in the office going, "This guy doesn't have the answer. I don't like. He's not experienced what I've experienced. There's no way that this answer that this person is giving me has any wisdom attached to it." And part of it was recognizing the lack of having experienced anything like that, and just the unsatisfactory depth. That's such a deep experience, and it requires a certain amount of depth, and I just couldn't find it there. And when I started reading my Bible again, it was like, I started in Genesis, Bereshit, and as I read through, it's like, you need to do this Shabbat thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's forever. Like, it's never going to go away. But this other side says that it went away. And it's like, which one of these things came first? Which one of these things is true? And that was really the beginning. When once I put the Shabbat piece, like it's an eternal covenant, it's never going away, it's never ending. Then that's like you know, the the thread in the sweater. You know, you start pulling on the thread, and next thing you know, you don't have a sweater anymore.
Yes. Yes.
That's pretty much the experience, because then it's the next thing. I can't think off the top of my head on what that is, but Shabbat was really the key.
Why?
That was
Why?
the first string.
Why Shabbat?
Oh, just because it's so crystal clear that it's never going away, and it was taken away. It's it says it will always be the seventh day, and it's a mathematical thing. If you just look at the seventh day, it's the last day of the week. So by switching it to Sunday, it's literally, in mathematical terms, you cannot get farther from the truth.
So you decided at some point in time that you would like to convert to be a Jew, but that was put on hold for various personal reasons.
Mhm.
But God willing, down the road, that's what you're going to do, and that's what you want to do.
Mhm.
You're very passionate about being a full-time Jew,
Yeah, yeah,
and as you said, you're already set up for it.
yeah.
So instead, what you did is you took the prescription that one finds within Judaism for the non-Jew as to how they're supposed to practice religiosity or spirituality, which is called being a Noahide. What is a Noahide?
It's somebody that keeps the seven Noahide laws. Essentially, it's calling. I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted to be a good person. That's what this is about. I didn't, a lot of the maladaptive behaviors, I would get in bar fights. I was angry. I was angry that I couldn't be with my kids. I was angry because I was drinking a lot. I was making bad life choices, and didn't feel like I was a good person. And at the end of the day, I didn't want to. I don't want to be a bad person. I want to be a good person, and that is what spirituality is. So, putting the conversion on hold, or whether I convert or I don't convert, or whatever path it is that my life takes me down, the goal is, it doesn't change. It's still that I want to make good choices in my life. I want to make ethical choices. I want to build strong friendships and relationships and live a good life. That's what this is about. And to me, when I envision my life in the future, I can't imagine it any other way than Jewish.
Right. So I'm always curious. I teach a conversion class, and there's stock questions that I always come to the classes with because I have deep curiosity about this. One of those questions is for someone who had Jesus in their heart, and I think that's the proper phrase, who accepted Jesus as a savior and Christianity as the right direction, and then lost it. Does that mean the concept of Jesus no longer made sense to you? Therefore, Jesus left you.
Mm. I mean, that's one of I think about like whatever religion you're born into. I was born into it. I wasn't given a choice in how I was, quote unquote, programmed. We're all programmed, and part of becoming who we're supposed to be is um, really investigating what it is that we believe, and investigating who it is that we are, and 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 making choices for your own self. I think that has, I think that has to be factored into your question. That it's less about, it's more about about individuating, becoming your own person, and than it is, you know, I don't feel like I lost anything, in the sense that, like, I feel like I only gained by finding a path that had deeper meaning. the depth of the source text. We have the Torah and we have all of these commentaries. Like I'm reading Lessons in Tanya right now. The writings that the Rebbe has, the depth of volumes, the depth of material that you have to access the wisdom that resides in Torah is just so it's just not even comparable, one side to the other.
What I'm saying is that many people whom I speak with and who do convert, they have let go of Jesus, and what I've determined is they've let go of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jesus was inside of them, but really it was the ideology behind it, was the thought behind it. Is that accurate? I mean, all of these ideas and thoughts, be it Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or what have you, how real is the Torah to you, the story of the Torah? Do you believe that happened, or do you believe that that's a concept?
Um, I I I think I choose to believe that it's real. Um, that's one of the questions I think that I hear people talk about is how do we even know what any part of it is real today? This far out from the original. How do we know that this person is telling the truth, or this side is telling the truth, or that side is telling the truth? Um, and so I choose to believe that it's true. And again, I would go back to the fact, what's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to live a good life, to live well, and to do good to others, for yourself. That's like the whole idea of blessings. It's not for you, it's for everyone around you. Like, um, yeah, I think that, does that get close?
I just want to go a little bit deeper with this. If
Yeah.
Jesus ended up being a concept, not a reality, whereby he was actually in your heart, but he was a concept, what is the measurement for Judaism for you to make sure that it's more than just an idea, but it's an actuality,
Mm,
very real about it?
yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's the structures
Mhm.
it's the lived experience that makes it real. That there's it kind of goes back to, I like this analogy a lot, that when you're analyzing, when you're studying Talmud, you have the block of Torah text, and then you have this rabbi that says that this is the truth, this rabbi that says this is the truth, and this one over here says that this is the truth, and all of them have their own form of truth.
Yes.
And so it's this picture of relativity. And so you read what's being said, the perspective of what this rabbi says that this text is saying, and you go out into this place, and then over here you go out into this place, and you can get lost in this mental exercise. But then I got to get back from Inca. It brings, so it's really a great picture of being in a spiritual place, because thinking is a very, very spiritual thing. And so you're out in this far away place in your mind, and then you have this construct that brings you back down into reality, where you have to be present. And so and I think that all of the structures of halakha have their own form of doing that. Going to a grocery store. This is something that I have wrestled with personally as I've been making my way through this path. That if I'm not looking for food with a hechsher, the experience of going to the grocery store lacks meaning. It's just incredible. Like, um, and it feels like the world is too big. There's some kind of spiritual compressive force that by limiting myself, by limiting myself to foods that have a hechsher, it makes my world uh, a little bit smaller and a little more comfortable, which is I can't explain, but it feels like home. It feels better to limit myself to these things. I would say that you know, as you'll read in my future writings, or actually in Abigail's writing desk, I think I talk about how the overwhelming experience of once I understood how to design using mathematics, I felt like I could design anything, and that was not a comfortable feeling because I am if I can do anything, then I'm not going to do anything. There's this overwhelm of potential that I had to limit. I had to constrict it down to one form, and I'm only going to work in that form. I would say there's definitely, like, we could explore that idea, the relationship of halacha confining a life and making it feel like home, and designing within a confined parameter. The restrictions of life, we need them.
Right. So you're talking about the endlessness of truth and how that infinite sort of thread can make you meshuggah, can make you crazy.
Yeah.
Yet you also talked about, Shivim Panim LaTorah. There are 70 faces to Torah.
Yeah.
The idea being that one rabbi will say this, another rabbi will argue, and it's multi-generational.
Uh-huh.
And then they'll try to tie it back in, but often they don't. There's a concept called teku. We don't know the answer. We'll know it when the Messiah comes. So when we talk about Elu v'Elu, that this is right, and this is right, and this is right, and this is right, within a given structure, is that not too endless for you? The idea that there are many, many different approaches to Torah?
See, we're getting into one of my favorite topics. The This is such a fun thing to think about.
I like fun stuff.
Yeah, well, it is fun because I mean, I think there's like, this is when I've tried to understand why the Talmud is burned. Why historically has the Talmud been burned? Like, yeah, there's the quotes in there that are when isolated, very damning. And that's a simplistic. It's kind of stupid. To say it bluntly, it's really stupid. So what is the deeper reason? And the relativistic nature of the process that we're talking about can open the door to a destructive form of relativism. There's a way that I've said this. Let me try to pull it up. When relativism becomes the driving philosophy, it becomes the objective truth. Meaning that when everything is relative, nothing is relative, and it loses all meaning. And I think that there are many examples of how we could tie that in today. That there are absolute truths in our world that are undeniable, and in a lot of ways we are going against that. So yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that we wanted to talk about today were it's our favorite biblical characters.
Mm.
I like talking Torah, and so do you. And we never really got around to it in our first interview. So let's continue tying this tapestry of yours together, and we'll do it through some biblical characters that you chose for this interview. Avraham, he left his homeland to follow God, to go to a new land, despite the uncertainties. Do you, Caleb, do you see yourself in Avram and that journey, that trek that he went on?
Yes, absolutely. I have children from two separate mothers, which has its own complications. So I see that. Uh, Going from, I do feel there was a moment that I had a therapist that was very anti-Semitic. And I was working with this therapist as I was making my way out of Christianity. And this person, we had a moment where he went on a very anti-Semitic rant and said basically that Christianity had replaced Judaism, and that you know, Sunday is the Sabbath, and all these things. And I said, I just sat back and I said, well, I disagree. And he said, well, I guess you've crossed over. And I said, well, I guess I have.
Yeah, there's some evidence there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea of, Avram Avinu is the OG Ivri. So being someone like crossing over, there's the convert that converts, which implies that there's a convert that doesn't convert. Like at this point, I'm a convert that hasn't converted. I've ideologically and philosophically converted, but I haven't fully gone through the process. So yeah, it does change the lens that you view the world through. And I think that's part of what Abraham Avinu, he necessarily went through that.
Well, what do you think about Abraham's near slaughtering of his son Isaac?
Terrifying. Yeah.
To take it a little bit further, was it startling for you moving in this direction as a convert to read that and other aspects of the Torah, which are extraordinarily difficult to understand? For the greatest chachamim, the greatest minds, these things are not simple whatsoever. And here you have Bereshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the book of Bereshit, and within it, the father of the Jewish people is commanded to kill his child, child sacrifice. Is that something you had to deal with?
I spent a lot of time studying Avram early on, yeah, it was scary, and it's something, when I made the decision not to convert at this time, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were going through all the details, and Abraham came up, and I remember saying, "But I'm not Abraham," and it's like when you're converting, you are giving up everything. You are like that. I mean, I think that I was in some sense, obviously not the same situation, but the fact that, if I would have pushed through right now, and gone through with my conversion, I think I would have really anchored in a lot of anger and broken the relationship with my children in a sense. I still would have maintained contact, but I think there would have been if I hadn't been as sensitive as I am to them, I think that I would have done a tremendous amount of damage to our relationships. So, and in that sense, I would have been, shechting my
Oh,
own. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Avraham and Sarah, Abraham and Sarah, were really known for their chesed,
Mm.
for their kindness. Is that something you have to work on?
Being kind?
Yeah.
No. I probably, if I'm anything, I didn't learn to regulate my chesed. Like this is another one of the like structural things, like components to the spiritual practice of Judaism, is understanding chesed and gevura, the idea of giving kindness and severity, and finding a balance in them. Judaism does such a great job of conceptually presenting these ideas through its main characters, and giving us examples and to follow. Yeah.
Do you think that when Avraham left God, who had come to visit him after his circumcision, his Brit Milah, to go tend to the three strangers,
Hmm.
do you think that was okay, or do you think it was extreme?
I guess I don't know that I've spent that much time thinking about leaving God as, I mean, well, I don't think that it was extreme. I think that so the idea of God as the ultimate giver, the ultimate provider, and we as receivers. Like I think about this. Like one of my uh, one of my thoughts on DNA is that the two halves of the sequence, the code, come together, and they're in the dirt. The wheat. Just use wheat as an example. The DNA of wheat comes together. It's hidden in this dark place, and once those two sequences come together and unite, it becomes a homing beacon for the uh, molecular world. So it's sending out this signal to everything around it. I need zinc. I need, you know, this. I need this nutrient and this.
Hydrogen.
Yeah, all of these different nutrients that it's calling to itself. And if you think about that on the human level, that's happening inside the mother's womb, and then so this being, where we all start out as pure reception,
Mhm.
the most pure form of reception that you possibly have, and that as we grow, we have this necessary transformation where we have to be givers. We at some point we transform, and we become these I don't know, sentient beings that know. And so when I look at that, the relationship between God and Abraham, what that brings up for me is Abraham returns back to some form of ultimate receiver for the purpose of giving. That God, he's in this very, very proximal relationship to God, where he's receiving, and then he sees someone that needs something, he's received already, and now he's going to go give.
Mhm.
So that is like to me, that is the journey of this life, is that we return to that place of being receivers for givers,
That's a lovely
for the
thought.
purpose of giving.
It's a
Yeah.
lovely thought. It made me think of a couple of things. Number one is when you talked in your publication about the Abigail woodwork that you did, um, your daughter's woodwork. You talked about in short, sort of the science of of how trees grow. And it was quite fascinating. You write very
Hmm.
clearly, by the way, in
Thank
simplistic
you.
terms for anybody can understand. And it's the idea, as you use wheat as an analogy, the tree starts to grow and it has to reach out, right, to the sun in order to get
Hmm.
its energy, and it's got to grow down in order to get all of those minerals of it which you speak of, hence the development of the tree.
Hmm.
What I was alluding to before with Abraham is I worked in the caregiving industry for many years. I ran a nonprofit where we worked with the homeless and we worked abroad in Zimbabwe doing medical care and so on. And I saw social workers and I saw doctors and medical care professionals who they needed to give too much. And you talked about the balance before. I saw within them that even if the client or the patient didn't need their giving, didn't need their caring, they went out of their way to make sure that they did, right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
was often wondering with Avraham when he ran to those strangers, leaving God, was that a case of, as you said, which was a lovely explanation for why Avraham left the strangers, or was it a case of I just have this drive inside of me to give, and I know it's God here, but I gotta go, man, because this is a real powerful drive. I'm sure you've seen nurses like that. It's like just leave the patient alone; they're fine. No, no,
Yeah.
no. I need to tend to them, right?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that is one of the problems is that we overgive as
Oh,
caregivers. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, what is overgiving? Tell me what that is.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm using it in the sense that we give so much to our career and our providing care. One of the things, like currently, I have some anger that, like I missed my son's first baseball game recently. I because I was working in the hospital, and I could have gotten there. I could have gotten there if I would have gotten off on time, but someone was very sick and they needed me. And I did my job. I did a good job. But I was angry that I missed yet another significant milestone in one of my children's lives. I was so upset about that. I was angry about that. So that's when I say we overgive. We give so much of ourselves, and it's very rarely appreciated or recognized.
How was
It's
your son?
never recognized.
How was your son with your absence?
Used to it, sadly.
Mhm.
Sadly. And I make up for it in other ways. I'm very intentional with each one of my kids and how we connect. Furniture being one of the big pieces, especially because um, the entire creative process came about because I essentially left them, and I describe it as we have this cord of love that is flowing between our hearts. And when I left, I severed that cord, and so they had their mother to be with them and connect that love to, but not to diminish the pain of my absence, because that is absolutely true. Um, but on my side, I had no one to connect that to. So my cord of love is just like flitting around with nowhere to attach it. And that's how I became a craftsman, is that became the vehicle to place my love. And yeah, how did I get there from
Doesn't matter. It's all good.
over giving?
No, it's all good. I think that there's a free association to our interviews, and I think that
Yeah.
works really well. Have your kids forgiven you? Have they reestablished that chord?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I know you commented on my family pictures that I just had. I feel like that was such a milestone in my life and our relationships. Um, it was such a magical day with them taking all those pictures. We had so much fun. There was no fighting. Yeah, I think we're in a good place.
If you found out that your last day, chas v'chalila, God forbid, was tomorrow, what would be your greatest achievement?
I mean, same thing that I said last time, becoming who I am today. You know, I am extremely proud of that.
You're proud of
Because
yourself.
I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
I'm proud of who I've created myself to be. Yeah.
I want to continue this discussion about biblical characters.
Uh-huh.
Isaac was known for his peaceful nature.
Mm.
And he was known for his peaceful nature. Therefore, when the Torah talks about settling a dispute between his neighbors and his own people, having to do with who owns this well. Well, I own the
Mm.
well. No, you own the well. And he did so very diligently, and he did so very well. He was a good peacemaker, Isaac was. Once again, you've established certain things within your industry to help out other nurses, right? And that's a very beautiful thing. You've gone outside of yourself and
Mm.
you're cognizant of what other people can go through. And therefore you said, hey, we can all share in this well. So
Mhm.
does Isaac resonate with you as a biblical character in any way?
Well, what was coming up for me as you were talking about his peaceful nature, the thing that came up to me is, uh, Abraham started outside of the land,
Yeah.
and he comes in. He goes down to Egypt, and he's kind of dancing all around. Um, Yaakov is born in the land, goes down, does his dance in and out of the land. So Yitzchak was the only one that was born in and stayed in the land, almost went down to Egypt, but didn't.
Yeah.
So he had, like, when I think about those three and the relationship to the land, Isaac had this stability. Like he was rooted. So there's this, you know, there's a stability in his life that perhaps contributed to that peacefulness. He never had to go around. Both of my grandfathers could point to where they were born,
Mhm.
and I think about this a lot in comparison to my own life, having been moved around a lot. And so much of our society is mobile today. We're not rooted in anything. And I think about my grandfather's one in particular. He never left his home until he had to go to the assisted living facility. And he never, if modernity hadn't organized itself in such a way that we have assisted living facilities, he never would have left. He would have been born there and he would have died there. And they were, to me, such an anchor. They were both wheat farmers, and they were so stable. And so I see that in Isaac, in Yitzchak, that he was very stable, and that creates a lot of peace.
Is a stability you're referring to, in part at least, of he staying at home? Avram did not. Avram went from Ur of Chaldees to Canaan, what would be Israel. That's not lacking stability, is it?
Well, it's a different life. It's a different life. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed by which biblical characters people are most fascinated by. I am fascinated by Moshe Rabbeinu, by Moses, because I played a leadership role in the Jewish community, and I watched Moses' development as a leader, all the way from the burning bush till when he died at the end of Devarim. And when you and I spoke about your favorite biblical characters, you said hands down it's Joseph.
Mm.
And you don't
Yep.
hear that. You don't hear that a lot.
Really?
You don't hear that a lot, no. But
Huh.
what is it about Joseph, Caleb Schraeder, that is so meaningful to you that you just really love his character?
His tears.
Hmm.
When I really connected to his story and the pain that he felt, I felt his pain. The
I
betrayal of
think
his brothers. Um, that was a very um, it's very emotional. He's an emotional character. Um, he's been through a lot. Um, you know, I I've never been in prison. I can't relate to him on that level, but I have been in a conceptual prison, a prison of my mind. I've been in that prison, and yeah, it's his story is so powerful, and like he has every reason to be angry and to not forgive, but he does.
is that you?
What do you mean? Like,
Does
I mean,
forgiveness play a role in your life in a big way?
yeah, I mean, I would, I would say the prison piece, like I was um, dyslexic. They said I wasn't smart enough to learn in school, and so I um, was put into learning disability courses. I was in with people that were really disabled, and I didn't belong there. And then in the other classes, I was in normal classes, and I didn't belong there because I couldn't keep up. So it was kind of like being in a prison in that sense, and not really being seen in that way, and it programmed me for a life of questioning my intelligence. Yeah, am I actually smart? Like, do I have intelligence? And coming out of that prison through learning and discovering my passion for learning and love for it, and realizing that I'm not lacking in any way. And I mean, to correlate it, I've only added to
Yes.
my intelligence. So yeah, I connect on that level with Yosef, and forgiving people for, yeah, forgiveness is definitely a big part. Gosh, when you properly do a cheshbon hanefesh, you do the full accounting of your soul, and you take into account everyone that you've hurt and that has hurt you. When you really, really, really do that, you do get to an almost there's an equanimity that you necessarily reach, and you begin to see everyone around you in the same terms, that you really are able to see how we are all carrying our own baggage, and and that should make you a more forgiving person and see people a little more. um you see the relativity in the experience of others, that there may be objective cruelty that they've exposed you to, and at the same time, you at the same time, they've who knows what they have been through to make them that way.
Has everyone who needed to forgiven you?
um is that my I mean, is that fully my responsibility or
No, no.
concern?
I'm just wondering. No, what I'm saying is the process. Sometimes I feel like it is my responsibility because I hate when people are angry with me, and
Sure. Yeah.
I want to
Yeah, of
fix
course.
any toxicity out there. So no, but really my question is that when you go through a process, a cheshbon nefesh, as you call it, sort of being introspective and seeing all sides of you, where you have done really well and not so well, hurt people or been hurt, that process will eventually, or can eventually, take you on the road of asking people to forgive you, and you going out and forgiving others who
Mm.
have hurt you. So I'm just wondering if it's worked both ways with you. You've become a nicer guy. You've become very gentle. You've become caring. You've developed those aspects of you. Have people seen that? That's really the question.
I don't know that everyone has. There's the idea that you're not, if it would do more harm than good, you don't go seek that. And really, I mean, for me, the main drive has really been be a better person, and that those things will come.
I think one of the phenomenal things about Joseph is that despite the fact that he was enslaved by his brothers
Yeah.
and that he spent so long in prison and had a very difficult life up until he became the vizier of Egypt, sort of Pharaoh's second in command, that his belief in God never wavered, as far as we see. All the stuff that you've gone through, and you've gone through a lot, have you always held on tightly to your faith?
In the darkest time, no. And I think that this is another really important thing to, like, in the comparative analysis of the two faith paths, that because there wasn't the depth of knowledge and experience in, there is no comparison in the study of Torah to anything else. The way that the cyclical nature of going through the five books, it's almost like a grinding mill for the mind, in the sense that a grinding mill, you have your wheat, and you're grinding the grain down into a fine powder, that then you can make something very tasty out of, right? That idea. And the more that you grind over these five books year after year, and you extract more and more context and depth of meaning and understanding of what the book is saying, it gives you not just, it gives you a depth of meaning, a depth of understanding, and it gives you the wisdom to see that for me, coming to the idea that creation is good. When you only see suffering and death for 10 to 15 years, when that is your life experience, it is easy for you to really question the goodness of creation, especially when your spiritual constructs don't provide that depth of context, that this really is good, and to choose to see the goodness in creation. The Rebbe's the Rebbe has the idea of a positivity bias, that you choose to see all of the experiences of your life in a positive lens. Very powerful, very transformative perspective, and I think that is, the constant grinding over these five books year after year creates that fine flour, and it tastes good. It causes you to see the world as good.
One can only imagine that when Moses was trying to free the Jewish people from Egypt, let my people go, that the level of suffering that he was privy to, and his brother Aaron was privy to, it must have been tremendously overwhelming for him. You don't have to make too much of a stretch, I don't think, to understand why Moses had a bunch of meltdowns. At some point, right? At some point, he said to God, he said, "Listen, man, I'm not your guy. If this is not enough for you, take me. In other words, kill me now," right?
Yes.
The level of suffering that he saw and therefore the level of suffering that he experienced was enormous. Yet, because of his faith in God and his direct communication with God, he was able to go right to the end. Now that you have embraced Yiddishkeit, Judaism, something that you're so incredibly passionate about, Caleb, when you're standing over that woman, that elderly woman who's pretty close to death, and you're just seeing another death on that same day, how does your Judaism kick in to make your life more stable in those moments and afterwards?
Um, I mean, the last death that I experienced, I went straight from that experience to community dinner. You know, having just the sense of community, having friends that are so far, the relationships are so much further below the surface. They're so much deeper, and we have this shared thing, this shared book, and that you know, like again, to compare the two, I never knew where I was supposed to be in the book as a Christian. There's no structure to it. There, you just read whatever is supposed to be read, knowing that, like, not only this week we're all reading the same thing, but today there is a specific portion of spiritual food that I'm to consume. Look, I don't get it done every day, but I know where I'm at. I know where I'm at, and I know where to find it, and where to be when I really need that spiritual food. It's there, and having that structure, it, you know, I would say that it's probably the healthiest escape from those experiences that you could possibly have, because I mean, I know that you've experienced going into the text and all of the ways that your mind can morph into, oh, this connection and that connection. Oh, what about this? And it's like a treasure hunt. And the distractive element of that is so healthy, in my opinion. It's so healthy, because you get outside of yourself. You know, it's, yeah, that thing happened to me. That woman died, that guy died, which I that doesn't happen in my day-to-day work so often anymore, because I don't put myself in that position. I have historically put myself in that position, but it does happen, but it's much more rare. Um, so yeah, I think that's my answer.
Well, when someone does pass away, is there something you say in your head?
Well, the last patient that I had die, I was responding to it. It was not my patient, and it was really bad. It was um, a pretty brutal death process. I don't know. I don't know what anybody in your audience. I don't want to traumatize your audience. I don't want to. You know, it's very violent. My job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
yeah.
So, do you make a bracha? Do you say anything when they pass?
Um, that one, I don't remember what I did. I remember I was very upset, and I was upset for quite a while after that one. Um, but no, I have. It really doesn't happen that often today. It doesn't happen often enough. I do keep Tehillim with me, in my work bag, my pocket Tehillim, um, and I will recite Tehillim, but it, like I said, it doesn't happen that often for me today.
Is there any aspect of your life which is really frivolous, willy-nilly, without meaning?
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think, I don't think that, I mean, I like to hunt for what it means. I like to search. I mean, I really do. I agree with Frankel's premise that we're all searching for it.
Yeah.
And it became an active pursuit for me. I didn't even, like I said in that writing, I didn't, I didn't know that was what I was doing until I read his work. And then I was like, oh, well, that's exactly what I was doing. And then it became an intentional process, which opened up the creative doors for me in an entirely new way that, without having encountered his writing and ideas, I maybe never would have realized. So it's more of an intentional thing now, but it doesn't. It's not like I'm there all the time every day. I don't think anybody can stay anywhere all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be healthy to stay there.
No, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It's just from what I know about you, the readings that I've done, that you've written, that you've created, looking at your woodwork, there's an intensity about you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an
I've had an
intensity.
intense experience.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
Yeah.
that. And yeah, I guess you're right. My question was, how often can you stay in that place, and how often do you need just to sort of step away from it, sit on the bank of a river, and just take in the water flow, or dive right in?
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean it's a dance. Sitting on the riverbank is like it's those down times that all of the information that you've taken in is kind of processed in that uncontrolled way. I can't control it. The creative process is not um it's not subject to my will. There's the skill and the ability is developed, and um, that's kind of like everything that's happening internally. Like that's what I said. It's the it's the voice box. The skill in my hands and knowledge of the tools and understanding how the wood works, those are all letters in the alphabet of creating. And so that's when I say it gave me a voice, that is the right way to think about it, that I have all of these experiences and all of this knowledge that I've accumulated, and that is the woodwork is my book, or whatever, however you want to think about that. But I can't control that.
At the top of this interview, I talked about something that you had written, a quote, and in essence, it said that woodworking became an outlet for your sort of scream, your spiritual scream. Is it still a scream?
I don't do much woodworking at all today. I am writing about my work. I mean, I've been on the woodworking journey for 14 years. I've been making for 14 years. In fact, I just sold all of my large tools. I kept all my hand tools and the tools that I need to do art with wood. But yeah, I couldn't keep my wood shop. The interest rate on the mortgage that the shop owner had, it ballooned and made the rent untenable for me. So I had to sell all my big tools, and this is the first time I haven't had a shop in a long time. And it's okay. I mean, I have, my life is, woodworking was, it's a complex relationship. Letting go of it was not easy, but I also have such a full life that I don't need it in the way that I did at one time.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I understand that completely. I'm an artist. I paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there have been times where I've stopped painting, and it was
Mhm.
okay because I didn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's a real sign of my growth and development just as a person.
As you know, Caleb, I've been playing around with AI,
Mm.
and I have a poem about you, Ode to Caleb Schraeder, and here we go, written by AI. In Kansas City's heart, where shadows dwell, Caleb Schraeder walked a winding hell. A
Uh,
Christian once, his faith in tatters fell, rock bottom called, a story to retell. Through trauma's grip, a nurse's hands grew cold, his spirit frayed, unraveling, untold. Yet in the dark, a spark began to gleam, the Torah's call, a whisper, then a dream. With rabbis wise, he wove his soul anew. In sacred texts, his purpose slowly grew. From chaos born, a path of truth unfurled. Judaism's light now steadied Caleb's world.
mm,
Woodwork, he mused, a term of grit and grace. A mirror is held to life's unyielding pace. Each plank he carved, each grain of wood a cry, his silent scream beneath a starlit sky. No blueprint guided, no design was planned. His soul alone would shape with trembling hand. Woodworking sang what words could not express, a voice for pain, for hope, for tenderness. From ashes rose a man transformed, alive. His heart now beats where once it fought to thrive. Caleb, the seeker, found his truth profound. In Torah's song, his soul's new home was found. That's it.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem on that one, eh,
Baruch
Caleb?
Hashem. Yeah.
Ladies and gents, I want to thank everybody for listening and for watching. At the top of the interview, I asked you please to be cognizant of what you might take out of this discussion that Caleb and I would have, and see what would resonate with you. And I would just say aloud, just to remind you that life is full of challenges, but it's possible for most to overcome them, for many. And I think what's required to do that is tenacity. It's to work very hard, to be grounded as you go, to work to your best, to put your feet to the ground, and to have an open mind and see what's out there in terms of what works for you. In Caleb's case, it was Judaism, and he has embraced it with all the strength that he has, and with all the diligence and all the curiosity that he can muster up. It's passion. That's what we call passion.
Mm.
And when you find your passion, as I've said many times, as Viktor Frankl, whom you alluded to before, said in Man's Search for Meaning, passion in and of itself is your breath.
Mm.
It's your life force. So there are many ways to find your passion. Perhaps this interview will help you in doing so. But if you have one singular goal as you grow, as you get older, and you have not as of yet found that zeal, if you will, that passion, get on a road to discover it, because that's what makes our life meaningful and purposeful. Do you want to add anything to that, Caleb?
Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up.
Don't give up. That's the secret. Yeah, just keep going.
When you're at your worst, and you were at your worst, how did you not give up?
I mean, it was my kids. They kept me alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the thought of today, actually, the thought of being able to, like, when I say those family pictures that we got it's such a milestone. I mean, that's what I dreamed about when I was isolated and all alone. Yeah, it was the hope of being with them, and one of the I mean, it's not sad. It's tremendously happy. But when I dreamed of those things, it's funny because they were still the age that they were when I was dreaming of that. And the reality is that they're grown and they're their own people. And time went a lot faster than I expected, and a lot more time passed than I would have liked. But I'm here. I'm thankful.
A little bit of insight from a 65-year-old. Time just starts to go quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker as we get older.
Yeah.
Are you happy nowadays?
I think the last time I said I think joy is the right word. I still kind of lean that way. Happy is transient. Joy is more like rooted. It's rooted a little deeper inside. I have the capacity to be happy. I think I had a real hard time having the capacity to be happy previously, if that makes sense.
No, totally. So no
Yeah.
more bar fights.
No.
Never been in a bar fight.
No.
No more bar fights.
No more of that.
Caleb Schraeder, thank you so much. We have an interview coming up in August, and you talked today about what you and Julie have accomplished. Let's just tell our listeners and our viewers that you have a podcast with your friend, with your colleague, Julie, who's a nurse as well. And you talk about all kinds of issues having to do with nurses that are generally not spoken about out there, one of which is burnout, one of which is the potential for taking one's life, God forbid. And that happens many times within your industry. And I'm looking forward to talking to you and Julie about your nursing and about what you bring to your colleagues, because I think it's magnificent. Do you just want to add to that at all?
I think you did a good job. I think we're both really excited to come on and talk about our experiences and what it is that we've been doing.
Where can people find your podcast?
Nursing U's it's Nursing U apostrophe S podcast, Nursing U's podcast. Spotify, YouTube, Apple, anywhere you can get podcasts.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I want you to know, as I've told you before, that I always benefit from speaking to you. I feel very deeply inspired. I have to tell you, and I'm sure you've seen this on your journey, the Jew is very deeply inspired by the person who's converting. Very deeply inspired, very often, because you're making a decision that we didn't make.
Right.
We didn't make that.
Right.
And I often say when I'm teaching at the conversion school, I wish I had the opportunity to convert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Because you are embracing this belief system, this peoplehood, this community, as you talked about before, in a way which is fresh. You're the son of Abraham.
Right.
You're the new guy.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful and special. So thank you for your inspiration.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, yes, for sure. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and for watching and for listening. Take out of this what you can, please. Enhance your life. Make it as great as it can possibly be. Go through that journey. Go on that road to figure out who you are and where you need to strengthen yourself and the beauty that lies within you. The beauty that lies within you. I would tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that when Caleb went on that journey and his discoveries were not just stuff that he didn't like about himself, but he discovered the beauty within him, in his soul, in his spirit. And the truth of the matter is, when you cut out all the shit, when you just push all that garbage away that we were brought up on and we were taught, we're beautiful people. We just are. Humankind is just beautiful.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. It's overwhelmingly incredible. Anyways, we'll talk to you soon. Sei gesund, as they say in Yiddish, which is go in health. And I appreciate very much you coming to listen and to watch. And my very best and great appreciation to my dear friend, Caleb Schraeder. Thank you.
Thank you so much.